Hey guys, Andrew McFarlane here from StartAJuiceBar.com. Hope you guys are feeling amazing, happy, healthy, inspired to launch your juice bar businesses. Today we are talking about the top 5 juice bar location mistakes. So this is all about the things that I see people do on a regular basis when getting into locations and everything surrounding that topic. Before I dive into today's topic of conversation, if you guys are new to the channel, you don't know who I am, you don't know what we do. For over the last 10 years, myself and our company has had the pleasure of running our own juice bar businesses as well as helping people like yourself launch and scale juice bar concepts, smoothie bar concepts, acai bowl businesses, healthy plant-based cafes, and the like all over the world. So all the information that's coming to you from this channel is really coming from experience. Before we dive in, one last invitation, request, kind demand is to press that like button. This is going to expose the content to more people all over the world. So that way we can really make the world a healthier place by empowering one another to create these businesses. So talking about today, the top 5 things that I've seen that I really consider to be really big mistakes when it comes to people getting into juice bar locations. Starting with number 1, and this is a big one. And it is people who get into locations because they are seen as being easy and convenient, therefore misinterpreted as being good. I remember many years back, maybe a couple of years ago, I was talking to a prospective client and they were telling me about a location that they were considering, and it was a gym owner who had a juice bar that was already built out inside of their space, and I think the previous tenant either broke the lease or didn't do well, so they left, and he was really excited. He said, it's already built out, it's great. And I started kind of digging a little bit more deeply, and I said, well, how many members does this gym have? Are they doing well? Is it in a good part of town? Are these people affluent? Really just trying to dissect whether this was a good location. And sure enough, as we spoke about it more, he said, you know what? Now that I think about it, it's actually not a good location. It just was really easy to get into. It was good because I believed that it was cheap. And so just know that cheap and easy and convenience don't equate to a location being good. I would much prefer you all invest more money in the kind of short term and upfront if you have to get into a location that is going to be good for you in the long run. So that's number 1. All right, now let's talk about number 2. Number 2 is a mistake that I see when it comes to people getting into location is that they sign their leases too early. And what do I mean by that? I mean that there are other aspects of the business that haven't really been developed yet. And so oftentimes the reason people sign leases before they should is because, one, they might see a location and feel like, hey, this location is going to go quickly, and so I need to dive into it, which in some situations that is the case. But it's also important to be mature to understand the time frame at which locations get leased out and become available, because sometimes I've noticed throughout time looking around cities is that there are locations that come up that are good, and it's maybe more frequently than in my early phases as an entrepreneur I would have realized. And so don't make a impulsive, emotional decision when it comes to signing a lease because you're too afraid that it might get signed by someone else. And simultaneously, you have to have a realistic understanding of the market, the location as it relates to the market, because sometimes it's a false sense of urgency, but it's not to say that there aren't real situations where you want to act quickly. That being the case, it can become a financial burden if you don't have a number of things aligned beforehand. And this is really your menu, your branding, your equipment list, having a connection to your architect and your contractors. Otherwise, you're going to be kind of working your way backwards to get those things done and probably paying rent all the while. So that's kind of another big mistake that I see people make. All right, number 3. Number 3 is people who choose locations with little to no street visibility. You might be in the center of the storm, let's say, right? You're in the thick of it. But guess what? Nobody knows you're there, so you might as well be somewhere else. Because there are locations in terms of the actual geography, demographics, target customer, that might be good and ideal in terms of the actual area, but the specific location might not be good. And I'll also pair into this, when I talk about street visibility, overall accessibility, right? Because there are locations in very popular areas, but everybody's driving and there's no parking lot, right? Or all the parking lots are designated to other businesses that are already doing well and have been established. Or people can't see you because you're behind a big billboard, right? Or you're behind a sign, or there's something about your location that doesn't make it easy for people to find you. So this is something you have to really think about. As I mentioned in other videos, walk by the store, drive by the store, really think about if you were your ideal customer, how easy would it be for them to pull into your location? Because if it's inconvenient at all, what I've noticed, and you probably noticed this with your own habits, is that inconvenience will keep you in this perpetual cycle of, oh yeah, one day I'm going to go there. Have you guys ever thought that? Where you saw a business and you thought, oh, I want to stop in there one day, but now it's not convenient. And then you go by the next week, same thing, I'm going to stop in there one day. And then, long story short, they go out of business and you're, oh, it's too late. Because everybody was having the same experience, thinking that one day, which is a day that never comes, right? One day isn't a day on the calendar. And so be aware and don't make that your business. So you can be in the right area, but if your location isn't visible enough and accessible enough, it's going to become a problem for your customers and therefore put you out of business. All right, discussing number 4. Now, this is really about lease negotiations, and this is people not negotiating favorable lease terms. This is a big conversation, and a lot of times when we're working with clients, we actually dive into their specific situation because negotiations overall is a big conversation. And you have to really know what your leverage points are. Meaning, if this is a location where the landlord has people competing, and these might be big franchises, it could be a Starbucks, it can be, another juice franchise, you may not have a lot of leverage. And so with that being the case, be aware of that. Or it might be a situation where you have a lot more leverage than you realize because you're going to be a tenant that supports their other tenants, and they might even be incentivized to give you what's known as more TI money. This stands for tenant improvement money. This is basically a rebate on your build out. They might give you a lot of free rent, but you don't ask for it, so you don't get it because you don't actually understand how leases are negotiated. Or maybe you end up in a lease where the term is way too long and you don't have enough flexibility to renegotiate that lease term, right? Where there's leases that have options on them, right? Could be a 3-year term and another 3-year term. It could be a lot of different things, but you have to really know how desirable the location is and how desirable it is for the landlord to have you in that location. The best key I can give you when it comes to negotiating anything in life is actually knowing what your leverage is. If you can negotiate from a place of true leverage, then you'll make sure that you don't do anything that compromises your business, and also you'll be proposing terms that really favor your situation without much regret if things don't go through. And now lastly, number 5. What is number 5 when it comes to the biggest mistakes I see people make when it comes to getting into locations? And this is having terrible landlords. Okay? There are too many situations where people are so excited to get into a location that they don't think about what the long-term implications are when it comes to getting into business with a landlord that may not really be that responsible, or they may be slow to react and respond. They may try to fight you. You might end up in a lawsuit with this landlord. So you really, like in any relationship, you have to really look to the future and say, what could come up? How do I need to do my best to prevent this from happening? Is this the kind of person, or is this a company that I want to get into business with? Right? There were occasions with us in a number of situations where landlords had things that were part of their responsibility that they weren't attempting to because it's an expense to them. They were going to try everything in their power to try to get out of their responsibility. And you have to ask yourself, is this the kind of people or group of people that I want to be working with? And is it going to be worth me having to go to court over this, so on and so forth? And so really think about who your landlord is, and you'll learn a lot about the kind of company or individual that it is through the negotiation process. But sit down, talk to them, find out who they want in a tenant, what's going to make the relationship beautiful, how do they like to communicate, what kinds of things are they going to be responsible for, what are you responsible for? Really feel into if this is a dynamic that you want to walk into. And not to say that they're all going to be perfect, and yes, there might be layers of convenience that you're willing to take on because the cost benefit in terms of having a great location outweighs the inconvenience, but at least you're aware of that up front, as opposed to having that blindside you when something comes up. So these are the top 5 reasons. I hope they've been helpful. As always, if you guys do need support, we have a full spectrum consulting and development agency. We can help you with everything from finding your ideal location to giving you some insight into your situation and some terms that you might want to negotiate and things you want to look out for. Ultimately, no matter what, you want to have a lawyer look over your actual lease because these are detailed and usually very long agreements that you're going to get into. But overall, we can support you with that and everything else all the way up to training your staff on site. So reach out to me personally if you want to talk about how we can support you at Andrew@StartAJuiceBar.com. If you guys aren't following us on Instagram, follow us on Instagram at StartAJuiceBar. If you haven't pressed the like button yet, you definitely want to do that now. If you have any comments or questions, or you just want to tell me you like the content, put it in the comment box below. If you're not subscribed to the channel, you want to subscribe, click the notification bell so you get alerted anytime we release new content. And lastly, we have a podcast on iTunes and on Spotify if you prefer to listen or you just want to have some passive listening as you drive to work to stay inspired at the Juice Bar Experts on iTunes and on Spotify, like I mentioned. Until next time, wishing you guys a lot of success. See you guys soon. I hope you guys have been enjoying all of the content. If you're in a place where you are really inspired to start your juice business, but you're not exactly sure what the next steps are, for you, we've created a free ebook, The 15 Steps to Starting Your Juice Business from Scratch. This is going to give you an overview of everything that you need to do from just having a concept all the way to launching your business. Beyond that, if you're inspired to go even deeper, we've created an online course, the Juice Bar Master Blueprint, that is going to go into great detail into every single area of launching a successful juice business. There's links for both of these in the description below. I know you'll find a lot of value out of them. As always, wishing you guys a lot of success, and I'll see you at the next video.